Hey, welcome back to English Podcast. I'm Astro.
And I'm Sarah. So good to have you here today.
If this is your first time listening, welcome. This is how the show works. Sarah and I have a real conversation, a real topic, real opinions. And inside that conversation, there are 25 English expressions, we call them chunks, that you pick up just by listening. No lists, no memorizing, just natural language in context.
And if you want to see all 25 expressions with their definitions, check the pinned comment below. We put everything there after every episode.
Now, before we start, if you are enjoying the podcast, please subscribe. It is completely free, it takes 2 seconds, and it helps us a lot. We really appreciate every single one.
We do. Okay, today's topic.
Today's topic, and I think this one is going to feel very personal for a lot of people.
Very personal. We are talking about comparison. That feeling you get when you look at someone else's life, and suddenly your own life feels not good enough.
Yeah, you open your phone, you see a photo, and you think, wait, why don't I have that?
Exactly. And we want to have an honest conversation about this. Not a comfortable one. An honest one.
We might disagree today.
Probably.
That's okay, let's go.
Okay, Astro, let me start with a simple question. Do you ever feel behind? Like, do you look at someone and think, wow, they are so far ahead of me?
Honestly, I used to. A lot. Especially when I was younger. I would look at people my age and think, they have a car, they have a better job, they look more confident, and I would think, what is wrong with me?
Right. And that feeling is so common. Almost everyone has it.
And here is the thing, I think it is completely normal to measure yourself against other people sometimes. We are human. Our brains do that automatically.
Totally. It is actually part of how we understand the world. We need references. We need to see other people to know where we are.
But there is a big difference between using comparison to learn something and using it to punish yourself.
Yes, that is the line.
And most of us, most of the time, we are using it to punish ourselves. We are not learning anything. We are just feeling bad.
So, when did you stop doing that? Or did you stop?
I think I stopped when I realized I was always losing. No matter what I achieved, there was always someone doing more. Always someone who looked more successful, more happy, more put together.
And that never ends, right? There is always going to be someone ahead.
Always. So I thought, okay, if I can never win this game, maybe I should not play it.
I love that. That is such a good way to think about it.
But here is what I actually believe, and I know this is going to sound a little harsh.
Okay, say it.
I think a lot of people use comparison as an excuse. They feel bad. They say, everyone else is more successful than me, and then they do nothing. They do not change anything. They just suffer.
Okay, that is direct.
Because I think if you feel behind, that is information. That feeling is trying to tell you something, but most people don't listen to the information. They just feel bad and go back to scrolling.
I hear you. But I also think you have to be careful not to be too hard on yourself, because sometimes that feeling is not about you. Sometimes the world is unfair. Sometimes you started from a harder place.
That is true. That is real. And I'm not saying ignore that. I'm saying don't use it as a reason to stop moving.
Sarah.
Fair enough.
Okay, but let's talk about social media specifically, because I think it makes everything worse.
Oh, definitely.
Because what we see online, it is not real life. It is a curated life. It is the best photos, the best moments, the best version of everything.
Right? It is a highlight reel. You see the promotion, the vacation, the new apartment. You do not see the stress, the debt, the difficult mornings.
Exactly. And our brain does not understand that difference. Our brain sees the photo and thinks, that is their real life. That is what their everyday looks like.
And then we compare our real life with all its problems and boring parts to their best moments.
And of course, we feel bad. It is not a fair comparison.
It is not, but here is my honest opinion. I think that argument, it's just their highlight reel. It's not real. I think it sometimes gives people too much comfort.
What do you mean?
I mean, okay, yes, their life is not perfect, their photo is edited, but what about you? What are you doing? If you stopped looking at their photos tomorrow, what would change in your life?
Wow. Okay, that is a big question.
Because sometimes the comparison doesn't make you feel bad because their life looks perfect. Sometimes it makes you feel bad because deep inside, you know you could be doing more, on your own terms, and you are not.
That is uncomfortable.
It should be a little uncomfortable. That discomfort is useful. It is not there to hurt you. It is there to move you.
Okay. But, and I want to push back here. Don't you think that kind of thinking can go too far? Like, if you always tell yourself you could be doing more, at some point that becomes really negative. That can drag you down too.
Yes, absolutely. And that is the danger. There is a big difference between honest reflection and constant self-criticism. One helps you, the other destroys you.
Right. So, how do you know which one you are doing?
Good question. I think if you dig into the feeling and then you take action, even a small action, that is healthy. But if you dig into the feeling and you just stay there, feeling worse and nothing changes, that is the trap. That is where comparison stops being useful.
Yes, that is a really good way to put it. Okay, we want to stop here for a second because I think this is something a lot of people experience. So we want to hear from you.
Have you ever opened Instagram or any social media and after a few minutes, you just felt worse about your own life? Tell us in the comments. We read every single one.
And we really want to know, what was the moment? What did you see? What did you feel? Be honest. There are no wrong answers here.
And if you are watching on YouTube and you have not subscribed yet, please do it now. It really does make a difference. And we have a new episode every week.
Okay, let's go a little deeper. Because I think there is something under all of this. Something that makes comparison so painful.
Tell me.
I think the reason it hurts so much is because a lot of us have lost sight of what we actually want. Like, we don't even know what our own goal is anymore. We just know that we want what that other person has.
Oh, yes, that is exactly it.
And when you don't know what you want, you are very easy to compare. Because any direction looks like the right one. Any success that is not yours feels like a failure.
Right? And then people rush into things. They rush into a relationship or a new job or a big move, not because they want it, but because they see someone else has it and they feel behind.
And then they are living someone else's life. They are always in someone else's shadow. They never stop to think, wait, is this actually what I want?
And that is so sad, because you can spend years chasing something that was never really yours.
So, what do you think is the solution? How do you run your own race when you are surrounded by everyone else's races?
I think you have to stop and ask yourself a very honest question. The question is, if nobody could see my life, if there were no photos, no posts, no one watching, no one commenting, what would I be building? What would I do?
That is a hard question.
It is very hard, because for a lot of people, the answer is uncomfortable. They realize that a big part of what they do every day is for other people to see, not for themselves.
They are chasing validation, not a real goal.
Exactly. And the problem with chasing validation is that it never ends. Someone always sets the bar a little higher. There is always a better photo, a bigger achievement, a more impressive life to compare yourself to.
So you keep running, and you never arrive anywhere.
Never, because the destination keeps moving.
And I think that is exhausting. Just thinking about it feels exhausting.
It is. I've been there. And coming out of it, coming to terms with the fact that I was running someone else's race, that was one of the hardest things I've done.
How did you do it?
Slowly, very slowly. I think the first step was just admitting it, saying, okay, I don't actually know what I want. I've been copying other people's answers to a question I never asked myself.
That takes courage.
It does, because the question is uncomfortable, and when you sit with it long enough, the answer is also uncomfortable, because you realize you have been holding yourself back, not because of the competition, because you never decided what direction was actually yours.
Okay, we want to pause here again, because this is the deepest part of the conversation, and we really want to know your answer.
Do you know what you are actually chasing? Do you have a direction that is yours, not copied, not borrowed, not chosen because someone else has it? Drop your answer in the comments. Be honest. This is a safe space.
And if today's episode is making you think, share it with one person, one friend, one coworker, one family member who needs to hear this. That is the best way to support the podcast. Okay. I don't want to end this episode saying comparison is always bad, because I don't think that's true.
No, me neither. I think comparison can be very useful if you use it in the right way.
What is the right way?
The difference is this: are you trying to draw inspiration from someone, or are you measuring your worth against them? Those are two completely different things.
Yes. If I see someone who learned English very well and I think, how did they do that? What did they practice? What can I learn from their experience? That is useful. That makes me better.
Exactly. That is you being a student. You are curious. You are learning.
But if I see that same person and I think, why am I not like that? What is wrong with me? Why is my English so bad? That is completely different.
Because one is a question, the other is a verdict, and you are giving yourself a verdict with very incomplete information.
Right? You don't know their story. You don't know how long they studied, what they sacrificed, what advantages they had.
You see the result. You don't see the years of work behind it.
And here is something I had to come to terms with personally. Other people's success is not a problem for me. It is not competition. When someone else does something great, that does not make my path smaller.
Right? There is enough. Life is not a competition where only one person can win.
But social media makes it feel like that. Because everything is public. Everyone's success is visible. And your brain starts to keep score.
And that is exhausting. That is what I mean when I say comparison can drag you down. Not because comparison itself is bad, but because of the way we use it. We use it to keep score in a game that has no winner.
So, practical question. What does it actually look like to stop? To really show up for yourself and stop measuring your life against other people?
I think step one is simple but not easy. Unfollow people who make you feel bad, not people who challenge you, not people who inspire you, people who every time you see their content, you feel worse about your own life.
That sounds simple. But a lot of people find that scary. They think, I need to watch them. I need to know what they are doing.
But why? If seeing their content consistently makes you feel bad, what are you getting from it?
Nothing good.
Nothing. It is just noise. And sometimes the bravest thing you can do is take stock of what is actually helping you and cut what isn't.
Okay. And then what?
Then decide what you want, not what looks good, not what would impress people at a dinner, what genuinely matters to you, what would make you feel, yes, I built something real.
And then move toward it, at your own pace, without needing anyone to see it.
Yes, because the most important work, the real work, happens in private. Nobody sees it. But it is the only thing that actually moves you forward. That is what I mean by do the work, not the visible stuff. the quiet, consistent, nobody is watching you work.
And I think that is the hardest part for our generation. Because we grew up with social media. We are used to sharing everything. So doing something without posting it, without any reaction, without any likes, feels almost pointless.
Right, we forgot that things have value even when nobody sees them.
And we forgot that the best progress happens quietly, at your own pace, when you are not performing for anyone.
Exactly. You don't need permission. You don't need applause. You just need to keep going on your own terms.
Okay, this was a big one today.
A good big?
The kind that stays with you for a while.
Here is what I want to leave you with. The comparison trap is real, and it is not your fault that you fall into it. These platforms are designed to make you fall into it, but you have more control than you think.
You can choose what you look at. You can choose what you measure. And more importantly, you can choose to show up for yourself every day, even when nobody is watching.
Especially when nobody is watching.
So, tell us in the comments, what hit you hardest today? What are you going to take from this conversation? We genuinely read every comment. It is one of our favorite parts of making this show.
And if you want to keep growing your English, subscribe. New episode every week. Check the pinned comment for all 25 expressions from today. That is your vocabulary takeaway, right there.
Thank you for being here. We mean it.
Take care of yourselves, run your own race. Bye.
Bye, everyone.